जहां हम श्री गणेश कर रहे हैं कभी न कही गई कहानियों के एपिसोड नंबर 1 का कैसे बना बांग्लादेश। नमस्कार, जय हिंद। मैं हूं श्वेता मिश्रा, योर होस्ट फॉर दिस इवेंट। Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji will be visiting Bangladesh on March 26th of 2021. This is his first visit to a foreign country since the outbreak of coronavirus pandemic. Allow me to share, in the year 1970, Pakistani general elections were held under the then military government of President Yahya Khan. The largest political party then, Awami League, led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, won a clear majority in East Pakistan. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto conspired with President Yahya Khan and refused to hand over power to Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. When it became clear that the promises given earlier were not going to be followed through the entire nation of Bangla-speaking Muslims and Hindus of East Pakistan began a spirited struggle for independence, duly supported by Indian government. The independence of Bangladesh was declared on 26th of March 1971 by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. The people of Bangladesh then took part in a war to get the independence. A 9-month guerrilla warfare ensued against the Pakistan army, which resulted in the death of 3 million people. Later, with military support from India, Bangladeshis defeated the Pakistan army, ending the war on 16 December 1971. This after 93,000 soldiers of Pakistan army surrendered unconditionally. हम आपके साथ साझा करेंगे कुछ ऐसी तस्वीरें 1971 वॉर की जो पहले कभी सोशल मीडिया पर नहीं देखी गई, और सुनेंगे कहानियां जो पहले कभी नहीं कही गई। पर उससे पहले, we are delighted to have with us an eminent defense expert, General Pannu, who will share his perspective on this topic. Lieutenant General PJS Pannu, PVSM, AVSM, VSM, is former Corps Commander Ladakh and has been Deputy Chief of Integrated Defense Staff Operations. He commanded his unit and brigade both at Uri, Kashmir, and a division at Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh. He raised India's Defense Space Agency, Cyber Agency, and Special Operations Division. He conducted India's first exercise of IndoSpace-X and CyberX. He is currently pursuing his PhD in indigenization of defense industry for modernization of armed forces. He has worked extensively on space issues and has published a number of articles on strategy and technology. In his seminal work on the concept of military, he advocates that armed forces must set the tone for tech-based warfare and create a roadmap so that they can guide the industry rather than be dictated by it. We have been seeing him in recent past in media channels on discussions about Indo-China imbroglio. General Pannu, may we have the honor of listening to you, your views on this topic, please. I will request you to please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Shweta, for a very kind introduction to me. And also on this occasion, this year, our nation celebrates 50 years of 1971 war. And also, we commemorate at the same time the creation of Bangladesh, where our Honorable Prime Minister is visiting, as you have already spoken about in the introduction. The genesis of 1971 war goes back into the history of a partition. What led to it was an ill-conceived and a hurried partition on the exit of British, who remained more interested in West Pakistan after the partition, which they created for their own control. Let me remind that the constitution of Pakistan was never written till as late as 1973. So when 1971 war was fought, Pakistan was actually meddling in the affairs of internal policy making and internal politics to suit the West Pakistan, and they wanted to dominate East Pakistan. As I said, that it was an ill-conceived partition because religion could not have been the basis, as India still had a larger share of Muslim population. So why were they creating a Muslim state, separating it from India? And who were those Muslims who were supposed to be living in that Muslim country when large number of Muslims continue to stay in India? So was it like separating sweet from the curd and then calling it sugar? As a result, what happened was that East Pakistan was also created because of the semblance of the division, which they did based on a religion, which I'm calling it inconceived, because religion could not keep East and West Pakistan together if that was the basis of separation. 1/6 of the territory of whole Pakistan was given to East Pakistan with 55% of population. And imagine you're creating another country such as West Pakistan as part of the country, where you're giving 6 times more land only to 45% of the population. And yet, when the population is more, you want to base a democracy which is based on domination rather than on democratic population basis on which Sheikh Mujibur Rahman got an entitled victory in the elections. And West Pakistan could not tolerate it. At that time, there was no consideration of religion. It is the West Pakistan, dominated by the Punjabis, who actually unleashed terror on East Pakistan. And the population of East Pakistan was subjected to scorched earth policy, terrorism, proxy war, and direct threat. And they started sending the West Pakistan military onto East Pakistan, divided and separated by almost 1600 kilometers. While doing this, the entire load of this terror which the East Pakistanis unleashed on, at that time, West Pakistanis unleashed on East Pakistan, there was huge amount of exodus of refugees which started coming to India because out of humanitarian assistance requirement, Indians had to support and feed them. Almost 10 million refugees started actually pouring in into the neighboring states of East Pakistan into India. At that time, a prime minister went and she wanted, support from various countries, which was denied to her. And the entire burden of having this very disturbed area into the neighborhood of India was actually a big problem. As a result, Pakistan did not want, as I say, West Pakistan did not want any support that the Indians should provide to the East Pakistanis. So therefore, they started threatening India, feeling that the Indians might support them. In the month of April, they burned the Fog of Friendship, which was an Indian aircraft, which was flying from Srinagar. It was taken in a hijack and it was burnt. Indira Gandhi at that time asked the Chief of Army Staff, General Sam Manekshaw, that listen, I think we need to attack this country because A, it is attacking their own population in East Pakistan, and we are having a huge refugee problem, and we must support them on a humanitarian basis. Secondly, they have burnt our aircraft, and they are picking up a fight with us. In any case, before that, 2 battles had already been fought with Pakistan on the boundary issue, and more so, which was centric to Kashmir. And when I talk about the ill-conceived partition, the British actually divided this country in a hurry, in a manner that they kept a flashpoint of J&K burning so that the two militaries are at loggerheads with each other. Now, look at this understanding that if the British had left India undivided, 2.1 million strong army, which they had used and had become modern in the Second World War, would have actually become a direct threat to the British. And as a result, they could not have actually left such a big country with huge modern army, and that too in the area which is adjoining Afghanistan. And they always felt in the great game between the Americans and the British that they should not allow the Russians to come in and Indians should not land up supporting them. So divide Pakistan in a manner and go and sit in West Pakistan and start controlling West Pakistan. So as a result, they lost complete interest in East Pakistan and they were busy propping up West Pakistan. So the entire support of the Americans and of the British and of the entire Western world went towards West Pakistan. Now look at, that is why Indira Gandhi was not cutting ice with any foreign powers. And the only country which at that time came to aid was Russia. When all this was happening, the Mukti Bahini became an insurgent force. And they created, the East Pakistanis created Bangladesh and a government in exile in India, in Bengal. And then India promised to them, because we will support your government, and then the support to the cause of a liberation of Bangladesh started. At that time, I remember in 1971, there were vehicles, public transport, reading the slogans, liberate Bangladesh. And in Pakistan, the vehicles wrote, crush India. Now imagine that you are writing crush India as a slogan, which you've written on all your public transport in West Pakistan. What are you trying to do? You are trying to actually dismember East Pakistan and create liberation of. So see, the entire whole effort was now towards creating a war hysteria and scaring India that, since we have America and since we have Britain and since we have the whole of Western world with us, please mind your business, do not support East Pakistan. But I think at that time, Sam Manekshaw said, okay, we will wage a war, but not in April, because he had certain considerations, because the Chinese were also supportive of Pakistan and also America. And they felt that we should not open two fronts and let's allow ourselves little time for preparation. And I think a lot of preparation went through. And in winters, the right time was sought to attack. But I think we did not attack. Yeah, okay. Shweta, yes, please.
Jalapanu, you have spoken about Pakistan's actions during, which made the reasons for 1971 war. But we are aware that Pakistan has not stopped since then. We have certainly helped Bangladesh become an independent country as such. But those misadventures from Pakistan still continue. They still keep trying to poke their nose in Indian affairs. So what do you think should be the future? What is gone is gone. We are generally aware 1971 happened, Bangladesh got created, Indian Army did a beautiful job. But right now, we know you are a defense expert. You are one of the think tanks who's shaping up Indian defense policies by suggestions, by inputs. And since you are here, I would really want to know what should be the role now of Indian Army of India in the international scenario to have a positive impact in Indo-Pacific region. I would want your futuristic view now, way ahead. So if you can share something on that, please.
Yes, Shweta. After Bangladesh got created, it has emerged to be a developing and a peaceful nation in its own reckoning, doing better than Pakistan. So as a result, now Pakistan sits and sulks and blames India that you have taken part of the Kashmir and you have also taken away a huge chunk of their own territory and created an independent country out of it. So therefore, what they teach their people or the students and children is that we must avenge the defeat of 1971. So entire policy of Pakistan is based on hating India. And one of the reasons that they want to hate India is because there are so many internal fissures in Pakistan. As I said, religion is not the basis on which they will stay united, because Pakhtuns are fighting, the Sindhis are fighting, Punjabis are fighting, people from Kashmir or northern agencies are fighting with each other. So this internal fissures are the one which are creating a problem in which the Pakistan Army's position itself, which has been strengthened by the Western countries earlier, because most of the officers of the Pakistani were trained by the West, they are the ones who have actually controlled the entire country and kept it under the power structure, with the blessings of the West, that they have ruled the country with the iron hand. As a result, for the army to remain in power and for keeping the country together, it is a necessity for Pakistan to build an anti-India narrative, which they continue to build. As a result, they have gone in for a low-cost option, that is proxy war. On the other side, they have built a atomic bomb. So they feel that they will continue to attack India with low cost option of proxy war. But should India then threaten them with the conventional forces, which are much superior, they will up the ante, and then they will start saying that, oh, we will go in and go nuclear. As a result, that they would checkmate India's conventional superiority over the threat of the nuclear blackmail. I think that bluff has been called off. As a result, the complete collaboration and coalition with China has worked in Chinese favor, in Pakistani's favor, but at the end of it, now they pose a collective threat to us. And recently what has happened is that when the PLA attacked the Indian army, they realized that Indian army is not the army of 1962. And Pakistan also realized that if the Indian army is strong enough to give challenge to the PLA, Pakistan has also understood that this is a different army again, and they cannot continue to build the same narrative. As a result, the whole world has understood if there is any threat which is going to come from, it is going to come from the quarters of China, and also not China, but all those people who collaborate with China. So as a result, the Pakistan and the Chinese bloc is seen as a larger inimical bloc to the entire world. And therefore, we are having a Quad meeting where last week, all the heads of the states of 4 democracies sat together and actually gave out a joint narrative that we have to contain China. And they are also talking about technology. They're talking about COVID, because COVID is the one which actually brought in a paradigm shift to the understanding of threat, that they're using technology under the cover of act of God or act of nature. But I think it has been caught that they wanted to actually bring down the whole world through a COVID attack and then physically capture territories. All this has been understood. And I think Quad is the future in which the world is now trying to engage against China in a manner that Chinese need to be contained. I think we have emerged a country which is very strong, a country which has been recognized by the entire world, which will not only allow itself to front, to defend its own cause on the territories, but also larger collaboration is required for trade and technology. I think India will be seen as the future power and acknowledged by most of the countries in the world. And I think that is where the Indo-Pacific connection and the importance lies. And I think you very rightly pointed it out.
Yes, I would now one more thing I would like to, like you said, we have emerged as a strong country, and we are a strong country because of strong defense forces that we have. You have been in the topmost leadership of Indian Army, but there is one something which is left pondering all of us, that the amount of awareness about defense forces which should be there in general public is not there. The aim of our webinar, this webinar or live telecast through Facebook, is to create an awareness, to know, to let people know what Indian Army is, what is its contribution, and how it is impacting the global peace and balance. So I would like to know your opinion as to what all should be done, to generate awareness, how this web series is just one small effort, but what all other areas are there wherein we can, make an impact and create an awareness to general public about the contribution of Indian Army and Indian Defense Forces in maintaining balance in this region.
Very interesting question, Shweta. The years that we were young officers and we were undergoing training in the Indian Military Academy, all our instructors, all had fought 1971 war. At that time, the image of the army as it is after 1971 victory was at a crescendo, that everybody recognized what the Indian Army stood for. 93,000 PWs and treated them well, sent them back. Of course, Pakistan did not respond, and we still have certain PWs of our Army Navy Air Force which are held by Pakistan. Well, that is another matter altogether. But what was important is that over a period of time, largely the population in our country kept getting itself detached away and away from the happenings of national security. And as a result, as 1971 kept going away in the thoughts and the minds of people, I think people completely lost touch with what the military stands for. over a period of time, the youngsters did not want to join the army. The business came up. The corporate world actually took in a lot of youngsters, and they felt that the future is in the corporate world and making professional, advances in corporate world rather than contribute their sons and daughters to join the army and defend the nation, because they, I think, were very, very detached to the happenings on the line of actual control and the line of control. When the proxy war came in, I think a lot of people didn't understand, and they kept saying, oh, the country has not fought a war after 1971. What are you people doing? Without having any understanding that what the army is still continuing to fight a proxy war situation all over the all over the country. I think that is where the media came in. And I think I give a huge credit to the Bollywood when they started bringing movies like Border, LOC. I think Mr. JP Datta is one who actually took this initiative because he comes from a military background. He lost his brother who was in the Air Force in an air crash. He understands because he knows that he was associated with people, and he is associated with the people who've been actually fighting war. So he lately made a movie called Paltan, which is on 1967, telling people that it is not that we lost war with China, but I think we have won 1967 war, which China doesn't talk about, the world doesn't talk about. So Indian victory in the Kargil conflict, Indian huge victory in 1971 war where he made Border, and Indian victory of 1967 is where I think I give credit to one movie maker that he's actually brought the military's understanding and the image to an ordinary person. And I think many actors who have acted in it, Amitabh Bachchan, Sunny Deol, and others, are actually seen as they say call them real heroes. But the point is, real and the real heroes somewhere have come together to bring this awareness to the people. And I think a lot of media today, such as your platform, is also talking about it. So I'm very happy that we have started talking about the national security situation, the role of the armed forces, the future of technology, and how there is a threat which is in being, and how the country has to come together. The nation has to come together, because the war is not fought by the military alone. It is whole of nation approach. It is the entire nation at war. And I think entire nation needs to come together to fight an economical war, so that if we continue to fight a war, we should not drain our resources, but also create our economy in a manner that our industry should come up as an exporter of military hardware, in which we will gain by military exports, as also equip our own military with niche technologies, and we'll be able to fight and defend our country better.
Absolutely, beautifully said. General Pannu, we have named our webinar or this telecast as Kaise Bana Bangladesh. Your unit, the unit which you commanded, was during 1971 deployed in the border, and officers of 22 Maratha Lai have contributed significantly in this victory of India and independence of Bangladesh. I would like to hear some views about the contribution of your unit and your unit officers and people in this regard.
Thank you, Shweta. You have asked a question which makes me emotional, and also I have a Brigadier Murthy. I can see him. He is also present. He was the RMO, that is the regimental medical officer, who actually treated and saved a lot of lives during war, because a lot of bullet and artillery injuries came in, because it was a full-fledged war, and there was a very intense engagement between the 4th Frontier Force and 22 Maratha Light Infantry as part of 202 Mountain Brigade as we were fighting in Bangladesh. But what is important is that right from the day I got commissioned, as I said, most of our instructors, or all of our instructors, were war veterans. When I actually stepped into the unit, I found that all the officers who were senior to me, largely company commanders, had participated in 1971 war. My own company commander, Major Madhapa, actually used to make me sleep in a bivouac along with him in Rajasthan during an exercise, to say, this is the bivouac that he used in 1971 war to sleep. So, I have shared that bivouac with him under a 1-ton truck. My own 2IC, who later on became my CO, Colonel S.D.K. Patil, was called Tiger of Bada Changram. Brigadier Swaminathan, who was during 1971 war the commanding officer as Colonel Swaminathan, he actually took surrender of the Pakistani forces. So when you talk about the surrender taken by the erstwhile commanding officer who I did not have the opportunity to serve, but now over a period of time, I've spent 40 years, and I was also Colonel of the Maratha Light Infantry. We've got a lot of bonhomie, a lot of respect for the commanding officer, Brigadier Swaminathan, who has been telling us stories of how the Maratha Light Infantry can be better used, because the Maratha Light Infantry is based on the Maratha way of war fighting, that is a guerrilla warfare. And he used this battalion for a silent attack from the rear, which was very successful. And they captured Bada Changram, they captured, they defended Naupara and areas around. And I think it was one big landmark victory, which they collectively achieved in 202 Mountain Brigade with other battalions to clear Hilli, which was a strong point of Pakistan. So when I talk,
I'll just stop you here for a moment. I will share few photographs which Brigadier Murthy has shared with me, and I'll just show those photographs, and then I will have you again. And after that, Brigadier Murthy, I request you to join. So let us have a look at some of the photographs. I think these photographs are from 22 Maratha Lai. The commanding officer you are referring to, General Pannu, I would like your inputs while the photographs are being shown.
Yes, Shweta. These pictures mean a lot to my unit, 22 Maratha Light Infantry. You have seen two people standing, Brigadier Swaminathan on the left. At that time, he was Colonel Swaminathan, and Brigadier Naeem on the right, who was, who gave surrender to Colonel Swaminathan. And also, there is a surrender ceremony which is colored, where Brigadier Swaminathan, then Colonel Swaminathan, is shaking hands with Major Niazi of 31 Punjab, because he also surrendered to him. And look at this hardware, vehicles, which are all intact, the ammunition, the artillery, and the number of soldiers who had actually lost their sheen to fight. They were so demoralized that they were actually intact, they were fresh, they refused to fight. And they came out and surrendered not only to 22 Maratha Light Infantry, but wherever the Indian Army went, I think there was large surrender ceremony, and ultimately the surrender ceremony, formal surrender ceremony, happened at Dhaka, where the Eastern Army commander at that time, Lieutenant General Jagjit Singh Arora, took surrender from Lieutenant General A.A.K. Niazi. I think that was the culmination and the high point where 93,000 prisoners of war were taken, and Pakistan Air Force actually scrambled to save themselves, and many Pakistani aircraft landed up in Myanmar, and in West Pakistan they landed up in Iran to save themselves from the onslaught of the Indian Air Force. I think this was a high point. I must tell you that I'm a great believer that the truth shall prevail. The way the Indian Army, I think we were also very kind, very honorably. Even today, the Pakistani officers feel that Indian Army was very kind to them. We were then kind to West Pakistan also, and we signed an agreement where a lot of land which we had captured in 1971 was returned to them, except in the Jammu and Kashmir area. I think that was a great victory of the Indian Army, which is known the world over.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, General Pannu, for your inputs. And you have made reference to Brigadier Murthy in the war zone. We know Brigadier Murthy has been a doctor in the army. He army as a captain. And during 1971 IndoPak war, he was posted as regimental medical officer with 19 Air Defense Regiment. And as war began, he was ordered to report to 22 Battalion of Maratha Light Infantry, Hyderabad. So now that General Pannu has given an introduction already of how 22 Maratha Light contributed, we would like to know from him how he sat down to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes.
Good morning to everybody. This is Brigadier Suresh Murthy, ex-RMO 22nd Marathas during 71 war. लड़ाई जब शुरू हुई उस समय मैं 19 एयर डिफेंस रेजिमेंट के साथ में जोरहाट से हाशिमारा एयरबेस पे आया था। वहां से फिर मेरी पोस्टिंग हो गई 22 मराठा पे, जो कि ईस्ट पाकिस्तान में एंटर करने के लिए अपने असेंबली एरिया में इकट्ठी हुई थी। ये जगह जो है वेस्ट दिनाजपुर डिस्ट्रिक्ट का जगह है। बालूरघाट से थोड़ा आगे जाकर के हिली है एंट्री पॉइंट। नॉर्थ वेस्ट रीजन ऑफ ईस्ट पाकिस्तान का एंट्री पॉइंट था हिली। वहां पर मैं 19 नवंबर को रिपोर्ट किया 22 मराठा में। और हिली पे लड़ाई जो है 23 नवंबर की रात से शुरू हो गई थी। 8 गार्ड्स हमारे ब्रिगेड की गई हुई थी। उसके बाद में 25 तारीख को हमारी पलटन ने 8 गार्ड्स को एक लोकेशन पे रिलीव किया नवापारा में। शाम तक 2 कंपनीज इंडक्ट हुई थी और अभी तक मेरी मुलाकात हमारे कमांडिंग ऑफिसर से नहीं हुई थी। तो वहां पर जब मैं पहुंचा कैंप में नवापारा में, तो कमांडिंग ऑफिसर से मुलाकात हुई और उन्होंने बोला कि डॉक्टर आपको जो है अपना आरएपी कहाँ लगाएंगे आप? तो मैंने सिखलाई के मुताबिक बताया कि जो मेंटेनेंस एचलॉन होता है पीछे, वहाँ नॉर्मली रेजिमेंटल मेडिकल एड पोस्ट लगाते हैं। तो बोले वो ठीक है, सिखलाई वाली बात छोड़ो, लड़ाई में जो है मैं चाहता हूँ कि तुम मेरे साथ में रहो, जिससे कि कैजुअल्टीज को जो है जल्दी से जल्दी इलाज हो सके उनका। तो हमने कहा ठीक है सर, देख लेते हैं वो। और दूसरे रोज सुबह सूरज निकलते निकलते हमारी लोकेशन के ऊपर में पाकिस्तानियों का बटालियन अटैक हो गया। उस लड़ाई में हम लोग डिफेंसिव पोस्चर में थे। हमारी कैजुअल्टीज तो बहुत कम हुई, टोटल करीब दर्जन भर कैजुअल्टीज हुई, जिसमें से आधे शहीद हो गए और पाकिस्तानियों के काफी कैजुअल्टीज हुए। हमारी कैजुअल्टीज में पहला कैजुअल्टी मैंने अटेंड किया था माइन ब्लास्ट इंजरी। हमारे एक सूबेदार साहब जो हैं उस पे माइन जिसको सुरंग कहते हैं, सुरंग के ऊपर में पैर रखा तो उनका पैर जो है ब्लो ऑफ हो गया। तो वो मेरे पहले कैजुअल्टी थे, तो मैंने उनको अटेंड किया। अभी माइन ब्लास्ट इंजरी में जो है 1-2 ब्लीडर नहीं होते हैं, वो तो पूरा पैर छितर जाता है, हर जगह से खून निकलना शुरू होता है। तो ऐसे समय पे उसको रोकने के लिए एक्रिफ्लेविन लोशन में गॉज को डिप करके उसको निचोड़ करके उसको स्टफ किया है, उसके ऊपर टाइट बैंडेज